Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today I'm this Sotah daf Mem Gimel. We're going to begin on Mem Gimel Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah Masneh. V'dibur hashaitrim, regarding the Meshuach b'Milchama, that the Kohen who would go out to war to give words of encouragement to the soldiers who are about to go to battle, he would say the following psukim: V'dibur hashaitrim elam lamer miya isha asher bana bayas chadash. Anyone who built a new house, and has not inaugurated it, hasn't lived there, you don't have to fight, go back home. Echad abayne beis hateven, beis habakar, beis ha'etzim, beis ha'otzaros. It doesn't mean specifically a house. It could be even a storage house for cattle, like a barn, or for grains, or a woodshed. Or base Sarois, Rashi says it's an oster for yain shem and tefua, right? A wine cellar. Echad habayne ve'echad halokeach, whether you purchased it, or you built it, or you purchased it, says Rashi, bayis banoi shahari etzlo hu chadash gemara marvin le mikra. We're going to learn out all these things from Sukkim. Ve'echad yirish ve'echad shenitin lo batana, whether it was given to you as a gift or you inherited it doesn't make any difference. You can always go back. You don't fight. And then the pasuk says, "Misha asher nata kerem v'chiloi v'gaimer." Let's say you planted a vineyard and you did not redeem anything. You haven't eaten any of the fruits. So echad hanoite kerem, whether it's a vineyard, ve'echad hanoite chamisha yulani meichel, even if it's 5 different foods. Actually, even if they come from different species, says Rashi, the Mahachi Havi Kerem Shtaim Keneged Shtaim Achas Yoitza Zanav Kizeh. So we have this huge picture over here, which takes up a lot of the space of the Rashi where it would be, but there's no Tosos on the staff. So this is what the 5 will look like: square, and then one is literally a tail. Okay, so it says even if they're from different minim, they'll still be mitzaref. Back in the Mishnah, echad hanoteya, whether you planted the echad hamavrich, you grafted, ve'echad hamarkiv, ve'echad halokeach, ve'echad hayarish, ve'echad shenitin lo matana. It doesn't matter how you have this vineyard in your situation, no matter what, even if it was gifted to you, similar to the house, so you can go back. Okay. And then the pasuk says, "Mia isha sher iras isha v'gomer." Let's say you got married. So echad hamaris es besul, ve'echad hamaris es almana. It doesn't mean only if you marry a woman who is this is her first marriage, she's a besul, a virgin, or even if, let's say, she's an almana, she's a widow. If you're engaged to her, that's it. You can go back to her. Efil shemeres yavam. Even if she's a shemeres yavam, your brother died, they're childless, and she's zokuk, so you can go back to her. Efil shama shemes achiv b'milchama. Even if you heard that your brother died in war, chayzer, you go back. Uvaloi kol elu, uvaloi kol elu ve'elu shaymin divri kayin me'archei hamilchama v'chayzrin u'mesapkin mayim u'mazayin. And all of these situations, they're chayzer, says Rashi, kamo shaymin divri marchei milchama. Shal kohen klamer shahakohen oimer lehen, that the kohen speaks to them. U'mesapin mayim u'mazayin, they provide water and food. U'mesakin es hadrachim, and they prepare the roads. Ve'elu she'ein chayzrin, so these people do not go back. So those are all the people that go back. Haboyne ba beishar sadem arfesas. Let's say all you did was build this place which is not a makam dira, not a place for living, like a gateway, a portico, or a gazebo. Hanotea arba ilane meichel. Well, it's not 5; it was only 4. V'chamishi ilane sarak. Let's say it's 5 trees which are sarak. Rashi is going to rozim ushkedim shenu eitz pri. Cedar wood and sycamore, which is not considered to be eitz pri. They don't produce fruit, so that does not qualify for you to go back. Hamasik esker shasai. Let's say you remarry your wife, but now you're only up to Erison. The Erisa, so it's actually it has to be new, a new woman to you. Kara Isha Chadasha Kapid. It's a new woman, as it says, Kikach Ish Isha Chadasha. Amanul Kohen Gadol Grushal Chutzul Kohen Hedget Mamzers Nisin Israel Basishal Mamzon Lanisin. So all these different situations is an isser to marry into this relationship, but kedushin is typhus b'chavi laban lo hayachayzer. But because it was not the proper relationship, it's not someone you were supposed to take. We don't apply the pasuk of liyikach. Rabbi Yehuda Omer afa bayna bayis al mechaynai. Even if you build a house al mechaynai, Rashi says sasro. Let's say it fell down. Ubanoi b'midri shayin, and you build it exactly the same way it was. Enu chayzer. The love chadashu. It's not a new house. Hoyavul chidi shel haysif love. You didn't add anything to it. Yafil etzel enu chadash v'gara mahalokech v'hayarish. It's worse, even though you're the one that built it. It's worse than buying it or inheriting it, because it's basically the same thing. It fell down, you rebuilt it. That doesn't help. That's not going to be a reason for you to go back. Lo hayachayzer. You're not going to retract. Rabbi Lezer Omer afal bayna base levanim b'sharoin. Even if you buy a brick house in Sharoin, lo hayachayzer, you're also not going to go back. And Rashi says, this is also part of the girsa in the tefillah of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, v'lo havi davar kaima. The Shomron is a place where the ground is not good for building a house. So houses don't last there. Shepamayim sarach l'chadasha l'chadsha b'sheva shanim. 2 times in 7 years, you have to basically rebuild your house. So even if it's a brick house, that's not enough, because it's not really a permanent dwelling. Back in the Mishnah, Elu she'in zozin mim kaiman. These are the people that don't move from their place, says Rashi. Dahanach del'el haychin ad laspar. So the ones we mentioned before, they go into the border. The sham shaymin divri kayin. They listen to the words of the kayin. V'chayzrin min hamaracha le'eretz Yisrael. They go back from their group back to Eretz Yisrael. Ve'enu chayzim lebateihem. They don't, as we said, go back to their homes. El oiskim b'sipik ma'imamazin l'holchem l'chama. They at least have to go and bring they have to take care of the food and water for the people in the war. Ve'elu ein zozim im kaimen efil lechas ad hasapar b'loshav al pi kayin. And this, we're now going to say, they don't move from their place even to go until the border. So who is that? Bana bayis v'chan chay. If you built a house and you already lived in it, basically. Not the care of chillah, hanaisas arusas, or kindness siyavimtai. So in all these situations, you already got married. These things are already complete. Shnemer naki helavesa yishana achas, that you'll be 1 year you'll be at your home. Wabeso zeb beisai. So yeah, ze karma v'simach es ishto zu ishtoi. Ashalakach lahavi es yavimtai. Ein maspikin lehemayim amazayin ve'ein masakin es adrachim. So these people, they don't prepare anything on the road. And all this is going to be discussed more when we get to the Gemara. Tanaban v'dibur hashaitrim. So the judges, the police officers, if you will, the officers he speaks to them. So yachol devarim shel atzma. You would think it's matters shel atzman. Says Rashi, shel atzman hein v'lo hay kain amran el shaitru. Maybe the kain doesn't say it, but the shaitru will say it. Pishul aimer v'yasvu hashaitrim, that the shaitrim gather together. Hari devarim shel atzman amar. Says Rashi, shahadavar zel lavado hein mosifin al shel kain. Mid'ad hashda gami nota v'gami eres isha loksiv yosvu. Before it doesn't say v'yosvu, they gathered. V'hachak siv yosvu shmamina ad heina divri kayin. Until here was the words of the kayin v'ezu hein moisifin. Then they add hamanim imakayin v'dibri hashayitrin v'dibri mishach machama kasam adaber. Okay, it's ad kayin medaber v'shaytim hashmiya. The kayin is the one who speaks, and the shayitrim the ones who listen. Tani chad the kayin medaber v'shaytim hashmiya. One place is that the kain speaks, The other place it says that the kohen also listens. A third place it says that the shaitrim are the ones that speak. So Rabbi, how do we understand this? So v'nigash v'ad v'dibru kohen. When it gets from those psukim, so the din is kohen medaber v'kohen mashmiya. The kohen speaks and another kohen listens. Mivadaber ad v'yosvu kohen medaber shaitim mashmiya. The kohen speaks and the shaitim listen. Mivyosav ve'eloch shaitim medaber v'shaitim mashmiya. Okay. Miya ish asher bana b'ayis chadash chu. Tanaban asher bana inli ela asher bana. I don't know if you built it. How do we know we include other things as well other than just building? Talmud Leimer mi ha'ish. And therefore, since it's mi ha'ish, it's coming to include everyone. Okay. Asher bana bias enli ela bias. I only know a house. Menayin l'rabos beis ha'teven, beis ha'bakar, beis ha'etzim, beis ha'tzarais, which Mishnah said that also will allow them to leave. Talmud Leimer asher bana mikol makim. In fact, it says asher bana. And Rashi explains over here the fact that it says Asher Bana, not it's Asher Bana bias, as opposed to the other way around. So Yachol Shani Marba Afal Baina Beis Shar Aksadim Arfasas, with a gateway, a portico, a gazebo, a place where we don't live. Talmud Leimer bias. My bias, a real ladir has to be something fit for living. Avko real ladir, excluding that. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Leimer bias kamash ma'oi. When it says bias, it's as it sounds. Loi chanach v'loi chanchai. It says loi chanach v'loi chanachai. Prad legazlan. It comes to exclude a thief. Says Rashi, loi chanach chanchai. Meduksiv chanach havi miyuta. Chanchai lezevel acher prad legoisel bias. It's coming to exclude if someone stole the house. Lemduk Rabbi Yossi Galili. The Rabbi Yossi Galili ha'omer. He says v'rach halevav. When it says someone who is scared, Zeh HaMisyaris who continue to Mem Gimel Mebeis, that's referring to Me'avedai Shibiyadai, the sins in your hands, which would include the Ganav. The Ganav therefore should be able to go home too, because he stole. So if you tame Rabbi Yosef Guli, could go into Avad Tshuva. Maybe the guy did Tshuva, the Ganav did Tshuva. The Yoyev Demain, he paid the value of what he stole. He's like a buyer. He should be able to return it. He should be able to return because of that. Even though the truth is he paid for the house, but nonetheless, since he stole it originally, therefore he doesn't leave the war. Then the pasuk is Mia Ish Asher Nata Karen V'Hu Tanaban Asher Nata Inli Ela Nata. I only know if it was planted. Lokach v'yarish v'litin l'mamatana menayin. How to know that if you acquire this vineyard in any other way, also you go free. You don't fight. Talmud Leimer miya ish asher not the kerem. Edli el kerem menayin l'rabos. It's only a vineyard. How do we include even a chamisha yilani meichel, 5 different forms of food? They feel b'sharminim even if they're not the same species. Talmud Leimer asher nata. Yochoshani marba hanaita arba ilani meichel. Maybe even 4, or v'chamisha ilani sarak, as we said, like trees which are not eitz pri. Talmud Leimer kerem. It has to be a vineyard. Says Rashi, did domila kerem. It has to be like a vineyard. Upachai shibikramim chamisha gafanim heim. It has to be at least 5. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Leimer kerem kamash ma'oi. No, only a vineyard. It has to be a vineyard. Says Rashi, v'lo shar ilanais, not other trees. Lo chilel. V'lo chiloi. So when we learn from that the fact that it says v'lo chilo is a miut. Prat lo mavrich lo markiv. As we said, if a person grafts, so what are you talking about? Our Mishnah said that if you grafted these trees, Mavrich says Rashi, shekaifef hazamayra o hayichor ba'aretz. You stuck a branch into the ground, so it does work that you should be able to leave. So Amar Zera, Amar Chisda, lo kasha. Kan bahar kavas iser, kan bahar kavas heter. Okay, so what is that? Says Rashi, bar kavas heter. The ukmus masnisin ba hechidami the chayis v'mnei chil hamarkava. Harkava is if you did a proper grafting, a permissible grafting, then it's okay. But if you did a prohibited grafting, then it's not okay. So our Mishnah, which says that you can go by a case of being mavrich or markiv, is because it was beheter. So hai harkavas heter hechidami. Where do we find any notion about grafting that it's allowed? Ilema yalda b'yalda, which is also the name of a school in Borough Park, Yalda v'Yalda. So let's say it's a young to a young, says Rashi, she'av zu shebekarka shehirka b'es ha'anaf, that again you grafted these branches, natiyahi, that's considered to be planting, v'yadayin lo higil l'shana revi'as l'chalua, that hasn't yet reached the 4th year for it to be redeemed. Halav mishum harkava hadar, you shouldn't go back because of the grafting. The belav harkava nami boila lahedar. You should have to go back anyway. You can leave anyway from war. Mishum yalda rishona, because of the first one. Typically, it says back in the Gemara, typically the boila mahadar mishum yalda rishayna. You should be able to go home because of the first branch. Elwa yalda b'zakena. So the yalda is enough of a reason to go. You don't need a second one. Yalda b'zakena. So zakena means shikvar nischalala. So the zakena one was already redeemed. So because of the new one, so you could still go. V'yam rabavo yalda shesibcha b'zakena. If you have this connection, a younger tree to an older one, batal yalda b'zakena. The yeled, younger one, is batal to the older one. V'ein ba din arla. And there's no din arlo. Therefore, the din should be that you will not go home, because the fact that the yalda is connected to the zakena, we're mavatal the yalda, and therefore it's only like a zakin, and therefore you don't go free for that. Remember here we own yalda b'yalda. So the question of is yalda b'yalda, says Rashi, udikashalach, we ask the question, below her kavanami, even if it wasn't grafted boilam mehedar, you can still go back because of the first branch. So kagoin de natal hach kamaisa l'siyag l'koides, that you planted the first one only for like a wood wall, says Rashi. Kagoin shahaisa pirtsa, but gather there was some breach in the wall in your field, v'nata pirtsa listoim, and you just used it to kind of seal this crack in the wall. Back in the Gemara, did not hanoitel siyag or kairais patim in arla. So therefore, the fact that it was the original one, that's not a reason to go back, because it's patim from arla. So it's no din of chil. So mashna yalda b'zakena de batla. How come when it comes to yalda the zakena it's batal, but mashna yalda b'yalda the lo batla? What's the difference? So because hasam over there, im mimlach Allah. If let's say you change your mind, labas mihaderhi, says Rashi, hasam gabi zakena labas emluchahi lachsor v'liyos yalda al shum machshava. Once it's old, you can't change your mind. Of a natal siyag, let's say you put it into this wall, or mimlachala b'taich shnei arlo l'kaim leperos chayavas arlo. The only reason why the yalda is pater from arlo is because right now it's just used as like a makeshift wall. But if you change your mind and say, you know what, I'd rather change this for fruits, then all of a sudden now will be chayv and arla. Hilcha says Rashi, yalda the kamarkiv begava l'achil chayavas ba'arla v'afagadol imlecha kamaisa. So that's the chiluk. Imimlachalaha bas mahaderhi dehami ikar leperi kaima, because originally it was for fruit. Like if it grew fruits by themselves. You had no kavana. In that situation, you're still chayv arla. Why don't we establish it like the case of two shutfin? Says Rashi, why do we have to come up with this difficult answer? They stuck these branches in to seal a breach in the wall. Why don't you just say the case is that it was for achila, and you can say, so then he'd be able to go free just based on the first one. So why don't we say we're talking about a case of shutvus? The high hader adidei, the high hader adidei. So why don't we just mention Pasha the case of shutvus? So Amra Papa Zosameris Kem Shel Shnei Shutvin Ein Chayzul Lo Ma'archem Milchama. It's not true. We must learn out from here that when it comes to shutvus, if you have a vineyard, they will not return, and therefore they cannot use that example of an example of how you can have these branches that are grafted one to the other, and you could return. That wouldn't be the case. Umayshna mechamisha achin. So how's it different from the case of 5 brothers? Umeis echmen, one of them died, bil milchama. The kun chayzrin. In that case, we say they all go back. Says Rashi, Mnei shehi shomer yavam l'kulam, because of being a shomer yavam. Gemara says hasam kol chad v'chad krinin bei ishtay, because when it comes to yibum, any of those other remaining brothers potentially could marry her. Okay, maybe the older brother usually does, but it doesn't matter. Technically, any of them could marry her, so that's why they can all go back. Over here, we don't say it's their specific vineyard. It says Rashi, Hamiyuchad loy, shein lo chalba gefen, shein lo shnayim chelak ba, because since it was grafted, none of them have their own, and therefore, when it comes to shutvin, that doesn't work. Actually, what we're talking about is the grafting of a tree into vegetables. So, what is that? V'haitanahu, the sanya hamavrich ilan biyarak, Hashem b'gamliel matir. He says there's no issue of kilayim. It's not considered to be kilayim. Mishom Rabbi Yehuda ben Gamda ishkvar akai v'chachamim oisrim. So according to Chachamim, they aser. Says Rashi, hadik tani b'masnisin marchiv choizer. Why do we say in our Mishnah that you go back when it's grafted? We're talking about an ilan b'yarak. The lo boy lemehedar mishum kama. You don't go back because of the first one. V'im timer min b'she'enu minayhu. There are 2 separate species. The emute la harkavas iser. Didn't we say that there's a prohibition of this mixture? Mivol chilo pratno mavrich hamarkiv. So haitanahu dikaimer mutter. This Tana says it's mutter to mix the yarak and the ilan. Kiyas Rav Dimi Omer Kiyas Rav Dimi Omer Rav Yochanan Hamani Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Loi Omer Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Hasam Karen b'mashma'oi Hachanami Nata kimashma'oi, that it's literally as it says it. Noitea in Mavrich Hamarkiv lo. So maybe you can just say another answer that we're talking specifically according to the Shita, who says you cannot about Mavrich, is because he's medayik that the only time is only if it's a karam, and it's only if you planted it, but not if it was grafted. So therefore, even though one said our Mishnah says yes, so that could be like the Shita of the Tanakama, but according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, he disagrees, so it's another possible answer. Question 6. Markiv o Mavrich, the Chayzim or Marchim Alchama Misham Chil Harkava. Who said, when do we find that you can go back? Either not Rishon el Siaga Kairis, as we said, let's say you used it to plug up a wall, Vihi Yalda Bialda, or Hamavrich Ilan Bayarak Libadamadabater, that you grafted a tree with vegetables. Okay, fight. Let's continue the Gemara. Kiyasa Rav Dimi Yom Rav Yochanan Me'ashem Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Yalda Pchusa Metefach. If you have this small tree, which is smaller than a tefach, says Rashi, she shval kaima, it's very low to the ground. Lo tigba l'oyel man tefach. So chayeves ba'arla. We say it's going to be chayev and arla. Kol shenoseha, all of its years, the mischazia kebashata, has the din of a year, says Rashi. Midrabanan kol hayomim arla nohagaspa. All of its days it has a din of arla. because it's so small, it looks like it's only a year old. Because if we would say, oh, it's been already 3 years, someone would see you eating these fruits, people would think that you're actually eating arla. Immediately says the Gemara, Shtaim keneged Shtaim, B'achas Yaitza Zanav. The only time we say this is if it looks mamash like a karim, which again is 2, 2, and the 1, as we saw in that picture on the previous Amud. Of a kuli karim, kol islay. Says Rashi, Hakol oimrim karim yesh l'ploini meshuna mikol hakramim. So if, let's say, it was kuli karim, so then we're not going to be concerned about that, because people are going to know that it's actually an older tree, and therefore you're not eating arla, and therefore you can eat it, and we don't consider it to be like a 1-year-old thing, and that's it. And it'll be always like arla. Mace, Taifes Arba Amos. We know L'Krishma. So when it comes to a person who dies, so their Taifes 4 Amos around, and you can't say Krishma near them, as Rashi says, because it's also brought down in Masechtas Brachos, Lo Garush. So you're reading, you're basically saying, well, he can't. T'chsiv, and Gemara actually quotes it, Lo Garush, Cheref Oisehu. So within the Daled Amos of a mace, you're not allowed to say Krishma. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Misham Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Choragta Hagadela ben Ha'achin, Asuli Nasil Achin. Says Rashi, Choragta is Bas Ishto, which is referring to your wife's daughter. So this is your stepdaughter. She Gadela ben Ha'achim. She grew up among the brothers. B'nei Habal Meisha Cheres. So we say she's also to marry the brothers. Demeschazia ki achasayu, because people not know this, that she's actually not related to your brother, because she came in from your wife, and she's your stepdaughter. But maybe people are not going to know that, and they're going to say that your brothers are marrying this woman. This is Rashi. V'roa oisa misha enu makar ba v'roa oisa shegadel etzlo k'savar shehi achosa. They'll think it's your sister. V'oimer hanoise achoisai. So basically, if you bring her in and you have all your brothers around, people are going to think it's really a sibling and not necessarily your stepdaughter. Okay. The miskazi ki achasayu v'lohi kal islay lamilsa. People are going to know. It's not a problem. People are going to know this is not your kid. So if you have leka shechan peya, and Rashi says ha'ani gairin, that the poor person like makes into like a silo. Shekinis harbi ke'echad, he gathers a lot of it together. Yosmehen Korean, he makes into a pile. So hukvul meiser. By doing that midrabanan, he has to take off meiser, because people are going to think that he actually it grew in the field, and that it's his responsibility to take off meiser from it. That's only if he made this in the pot, this pile in the field, and people are not going to know that he gathered a little bit from here, a little bit here, from the lecha shalapeya. They're all going to think that really it's mechuyev in meiser. But if he only does this only here, he brought it out of the field and into the city, then people are going to know that what happened. Okay, look at question 7. Yalda pchusim atefach madina le'inyan arla. So karim yichidi, if it's an individual vineyard, chayevas ba'arla kol shanoseha. Kulei karim, but if it's an entire vineyard, kishar yolanos, has like all the other trees. Like a shechan peh, shostin garin, madin in meiser, so besade hukful meiser, be'ir potter, as we just saw. Okay. Vaytim yam Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Yochanan Misham Moshe ben Yaakov yalda pchusim betefach. So as we said, if you have these little trees which are lower than a tefach, enu mikadeshes es hazaroyim, says Rashi, mishum klei karim. It's not going to have the din of klei karim, of this forbidden mixture, because Rashi says of achi hai karim lugazur banan ashar zaroyim. We're not goyzer on such small vegetation. That's only if again it's 2, 2, and then 1. If it's the whole vineyard, then yes, because gadol, it's big, it's so much. So because it's chashuv, so we're geyser. As we continue to mem daladam and aleph, meis typhus arba amois l'tumah. This is Gemara in numerous places. I had this in Nazir many times. So a mace is typhus arba amois when it comes to tumah. Says Rashi, chachamim gozru she hameis matam kol hanichnas ba'arba amoisav. Not only if you touch the mace, but even if you just come within its proximity of 4 amos. Kadeshul yargilu oichli taharos likarvlo. We don't want people to come too close to a mace. They'll think, oh, there was no oil. Maybe you came close to it and you actually did become tummy. So we want you to stay far away from the mace. Vatana tuna, and we learned something similar to this statement to prove this. Chatzar hakerev ha'emid batocha. If you have a courtyard of a gravesite which is standing, if you're standing inside of it, tahar. Provided that it means that you are you're further than 4 amos. Says Rashi, if it's less than 4 amos, batal eitzel hamara, then you're batal to the cave. So the question is, this is actually referring to a ma'ara. Rashi says that they would have these caves, and they would have people buried on different sides, almost like branched out. And the question is, what is the status of one particular gravesite? Says Rashi, Komakim shu oimid ba tahar. If it's like standing alone, it's tahar. Because the cave is separated from it. There's walls which are recognizable. That maybe in that situation we're not going to be goyes. Only when it comes to a mace which is literally mutal ba'aver in the air. Again, the whole purpose is to distance the person from becoming tummy. If it's recognizable, it's not necessary. Okay. So that's Shitas Beishamai. Says Rashi, Havi Makim Choshev b'chol duchta. Even 4 tfachim, which is like a Makim Choshev, like a Rosh Hashanah. So b'medavar mamurim. When do we say this? Shepischa milamala. If the opening is on the top. However, says Rashi, ukishoylin metocha mitvas va'oyla. When a person goes up, you're like clawing to go up. Avo pischa minatzad. If it's on the side, you call arba amos. Okay. So klapulaya. How do we understand this? So it should be the opposite. Out of minatzad, if it's on the side, then midreed v'nafik. A person is going to be more likely to. It should be more problematic if it's on the side. When it comes to l'mala, you're definitely going to oil. Okay. Because the walls are clear. When it comes to a mace ba'alma, it's always going to be 4 amos. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see if there's a question or two here. TA 23. Hamarchev ilan be'ilan ve'ilan hatachtain ein bo'arla ha'im be'elyoin shehirchav yesh arla. So im hirkav yalda b'zakena batla ve'ein ba'arla. If it's the yalda to the zakena, so the yalda is batal to the zakena, is no din arla. Ve'im hirkav ilan chadash, if it's new, al ilan shenatu, it's considered to be Yalda V'Yalda, so Shenatul Selga Karis Yeshbo Arla. The Imamach Ika Arla. So we said it because you can change your mind and it can end up becoming Arla, so therefore that's the reason why we make that distinction. This was TA 23, which I got correct, which is pretty amazing. Let's find this in the Gemara. TA 23. Okay. Selga Karis. Okay. TB 24, which I got right. So this one is the same question as we saw with question 6. Either it's referring to a shehirchav al natiyah hanatul siyago karis or shehirchav ilan biyarak adkan.